Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Larkin, one half of the S&M Show podcast, and I'm back today with another interview. I'm on the line with the very talented professional wrestler, fighter. She's a jack of all trades. It is the great and talented Miss Allie Parker. Allie, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Very happy to have you on the show. I guess got to say this right now. I'm a fan of your work, both in the MMA world and both in the wrestling world. So we're gonna have a nice blend today and shoot the breeze on both, and just tell your story.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Awesome. All right, so let's start off with this. As far as the wrestling side of things go, growing up, who were some of your favorites? As far as professional wrestling athletes go, and what was that the defining moment or matchup that you said, you know what, this is something that I want to pursue? That being a career in professional wrestling.
Well, I grew up watching wrestling my whole life. I don't even remember beginning to watching it because I've just always watched. So I remember, I love Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, all of them. Bret Hart actually was what I thought. I thought I was going to actually marry Bret Hart at at 13 years old. I thought that was going to be my husband. I just thought it was that easy, but it's not. But yeah, there was never actually a defining moment that I thought I was going to do this because I just grew up with it, around it, and me and my brothers would all wrestle. I met a guy later on when I was older. Actually, when I was 18, I thought about going to what they used to have out here in Vegas called the Buffalo Gym School of Wrestling. But my brothers were making fun of me, saying I would look like China if I went. And I was like, not trying to look like China. I was trying to be more of the Miss Elizabeth, cute girl type thing. So I didn't do anything with that. And then later on, I met a guy I enjoyed who really liked wrestling as well. And he started training. I went to his first training class with him. And the promoter had mentioned how they need girls. And I said, no, this is his thing. I'm not really trying to do that. I like to work out, and that's pretty much it. I'm not trying to do wrestling. And so every day that I came, he would always ask the same thing, like, please, we need girls. I'll train you for free. And so I did it, and I loved it. As soon as I started it, I was like, this is awesome. Cool. I'll keep doing this. And that's when I started it. My ex-boyfriend ended up not ever really wrestling. He did a couple refereeing gigs, and then he ended up getting married and having kids and moving away. So, yeah, I have him to thanks for this life that I lead now.
Well, I'll say this right now. Like I did mention, you're a jack of all trades because you're both doing excellent work, both in the fighting and the wrestling work. And like I said, that's with the utmost sincerity and respect to you. I love your drive, and I love the work that you put in on both fields. But I'll say this right now because I'll be honest. I woke up today. I was checking my social media, and I have to mention this. So obviously, folks, news broke out that John Cena and Nikki Bella have broken up, and then I wake up to a tweet and I see you there with the gif of John Cena and the whole thing. I mean, that actually started my morning, and I gotta say that was hilarious.
Thank you. I think some people think it's real. I thought it was like a no-brainer because it was a cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not him and I because I said, we're in love, haha. But there's no, it's just a cute little Snapchat filter that happened to be on for WrestleMania. And I thought it'd be hilarious and post that, but some people think it's real. I'm not dating John Cena, folks. Just to set the record straight.
That's what I'm saying. Like, things get so misconstrued nowadays. Like, one, snippet, everybody think, oh, you're with John Cena. I'm like, no, absolutely, I know it was a joke. And I cracked up from it. I mean, yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, yes. But let's talk about actually wrestling first as well. Let's talk about who you were trained by and talk about, I love asking your first matchup and the first encounter that you had in the squared circle. Talk about first who were you trained by and thoughts going into your first matchup.
Well, I was trained by a lot of different people, which is not always great, they say. Out here, I was trained by the Balor brothers at some point. I had Alice in Danger as a trainer, but mostly I had some of the local guys here working with me, and a lot of them can be seen on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, like Ryan Taylor, and now his name now is Thomas Day. Those are the guys that probably put the most work into me, because we just didn't. I mean, we had Vegas is so transient; it's hard to keep people in. So we've had trainers that come in and out, and so we just kind of get a big mashup of people. So that's basically my training. And my first match was actually the coolest thing ever. It was my debut match was on Fremont Street, downtown Las Vegas, with the lights right by the El Cortez. Um, Everybody walking by. It was huge. So I actually was impressed with myself to not like get stage fright. I had been refereeing before this, and there's a story that was leading up into a match here. But man, talk about like stage fright. Like I didn't have it, luckily, and there was a big malfunction in my match. It was against and I'm gonna blow the secret here. It was supposed to be Alexa DeLuca, which is actually at the time male mixed wrestling wasn't as popular as it is now. So we had one of the skinny small guys put a mask on and wrestle me because we had no girls. We still don't have many girls in Vegas, but then we had no girls. So this was my only option to have matches. So I wrestled one of the guys under a mask, and my belt, because it was my first match, I wasn't sure of like how things would work with my outfit. You know, you're not really going to try out your outfit before. My belt came off right away in the match, so I improvised and whacked him with my belt, which is good. But those are the things you don't think about, like when you're planning your match. You're like, what the heck? What if this happens? No. So for me, being thrown in and like having a huge like crowd the first time and crazy little like things happening, I felt proud of myself for just being able to, like what they call like no deer in headlights moments. You know, I actually got through and it was good. I can't say everything in my career has been like that, but my first match was decent.
Okay. And you mentioned a great trainer in one of those trainers, that being Allison Danger. I mean, here's someone who I've seen since the Ring of Honor days. I mean, and this is also at a time when Ring of Honor, you want to talk about how women's wrestling has evolved. As far as like we have Women of Honor now, but back in the day, there were only like very few women's in that division. There was Allison Danger, there was Lacey, there was Rain, and there was Daisy Hayes. There was like the four, and Sarah Del Rey. So there was like 4 or 5 mainstays there, but it's just crazy to see how women's wrestling has evolved over the years and just the great work that all you ladies have been doing.
It is awesome. I'm so glad to even, I mean, Alice in Danger taught me a lot of things, um, not even necessarily just pertaining to wrestling, but like just locker room stuff and just things because I had never had women around to, especially when you're training with all guys, and a lot of women have to deal with this because there's just not a lot of women wrestlers. There are now, but becoming more because of, I have to say, because of the Diva show helps a lot because it makes it more mainstream, and girls are like, I want to be like that, which is great. We need girls. We need girls that do bra and panty matches. We need girls that fly off the top. We need girls of all sorts because we just need girls. So if you're willing to get in there and do it, we can all work together and make something happen. But that was the first time I had a chance to learn about women's wrestling at all. Like there's other things that men don't even realize that women have to teach, you know, and you learn on the road or you learn from a female trainer, which I was lucky to have. I mean, little stuff like wardrobe malfunction stuff. You know, hair pulling isn't something they teach a lot in men. You know, men don't. They do have men hair pulling in matches, but this happens more often in women's, and there's certain ways to do that, and slapping the face and this and that. You know, just things that you don't end up getting. You learn the hard way sometimes if you don't have someone that teaches you this stuff beforehand. So it was nice to have a female touch.
Absolutely. Speaking of female touch, I have to mention this as well. She's been on my show, and I like to call you two the double dosage of awesomeness because I'll say this right now: you're two of my favorite people and two of my favorite athletes inside the squared circle. Talk about working with Kelly Klein.
I love her. She's not just like in wrestling, but outside of wrestling, one of my best friends. So we just get along as a whole when we wrestle. She's been around for so long. One of the first people I met, I had a match a long time ago with her as Mary Elizabeth Monroe, and we just are both fun together. So it works well. But she's also just somewhat like a vet. You know, she teaches you how to be in the ring. I mean, she's obviously been doing this a lot longer than me, and I still learn every time I do a match how to. I'm not even good at leading matches. I mean, this is all behind the scenes stuff, but she's someone that teaches you not only how to do stuff, but how to work around things, but also how to, work on the fly and just like she just is very good. She's like the next vet that you can work with. She's been doing this a while. She's finally getting credit with being a part of Women of Honor, for being skilled and strong, and not only that, just knowing how to wrestle and protect the girls, and just a lot more than people really see. So it's exciting to see her getting that credit. I'd like to see her be Women of Honor champ at some point, but they just started all that, so I'm excited for her.
Agreed. I mean, I watched Supercard of Honor. She had great matches with Mayu Iwatani and the now Women of Honor champion, that being Masumi Sakai. It's a great card from top to bottom. Recommend anybody check it out. As far as other people, I mean, you mentioned intergender wrestling, and I mean, intergender wrestling, I think one of the big things, like you mentioned with the indies, like you've been in a lot of intergender matchups. Lucha Underground is a big one on that. I know James Ellsworth is kind of doing the modern day Andy Kaufman right now, where he's the intergender champion of the world. It's just, that's another thing. Like, you talk about intergender wrestling, because I know a lot of people are frown upon it, but I gotta say, I love me some male versus female, what they've done at Lucha Underground, like I mentioned, and just all around the independent scene. I mean, I think there's a lot of great matchups there.
I think it's great. The only thing I think we should be aware of is that sometimes, like, if it's a really out of control weight class difference, I think that's a little hard to believe. But when they're pairing girls, like I've seen Candace, we did a 5-on-5 against guys. Her and I were in a 5-on-5 against I'm talking about Candice LeRae, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Up against a bunch of guys in SoCal for AWS, and this girl is so good. She can go against all the guys. That's why she's where she's at now. She is talented enough to do that. But there are some that are, like for me, I'm more funny, like I'm not flipping off of anything. So I would have to be matched with someone that makes sense. My ex-boyfriend we did a couple mixed matches, and he's a beast. He's like 220. There's no way, like, we had to be smart about our match, and I didn't feel like I should win every single time. And when they're putting these together, they tend to make the woman win. But if it doesn't make sense, she shouldn't win. I think that we should be more realistic with some of them. Just because people aren't stupid, but if they're okay, like with the Joey Ryan, all of those, we all know his stuff is not flipping people for real. So you can have a good time with it, but to an extent. I think that he's more comedy, but sometimes we just have to make sure it makes a little bit more sense. Some of them are a little far-fetched and crazy.
And Allie, I'll just say this right now. I love you, because I'm looking at my notes right here, and I was actually going to bring up Candice LeRae and Joey Ryan. So I was going to mention this. I know a lot of people frown upon the Joey Ryan, the maneuver. Y'all know what the maneuver is. But I got to say, for an entertainment thing, I think it's great. I was out here in New York Wrestling Connection out here on Long Island. He actually wrestled Bull James, and the whole entire crowd, before the matchup even started, was chanting, "Touch his penis." And I'm like, wow, this thing is really, like, it's taking on a life of its own.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was actually lucky to wrestle him and Candice in a tag match, intergender tag, a long time ago. Before he even did that, it was just the boobplex at the time, and she was doing the ballsplex. And so it was like it was just a Vegas like event, and it was really cool. And we had tried to get the video for it, because Joey likes to at the time he was making compilations of like all the girls he boobplexed and whatever. But the promoter hoarded all the videos and nobody got it. So we only have one sad little photo of us four together. And I'm like, oh, look at this. This is before everyone was so famous. But it was awesome. Like, I think that it's fun, and whatever. What he's doing, he's made such a good killing off of what he's doing, and Candice is so great. Like, I think that they make it work. I don't know about the James Ellsworth thing. I kind of disagree, because I think Joey was doing this long before, but good for him. Yeah, I mean, I'd wrestle him if he wanted, but I think that Joey was the man with this. So,
No.
not to mention he just did the whole this whole thing with the King WrestleMania weekend. So he
Yes.
really is the man with this. So you can't really step on his toes in that area.
Yes, the old Jerry Lawler fireball thing I saw. Yes, that was nuts. As far as the James Ellsworth thing, I think it's cool. Like I mentioned, pretty much what he's doing is pretty much something that we saw in the '80s. Like we mentioned, Andy Kaufman, the whole Jerry the King Lawler thing. That what led to off to the David Letterman thing. I mean, yes, I agree. Joey Ryan did before, but yes, best to James Ellsworth for what he's doing with the intergender championship wrestling thing. I think he's going to be wrestling Victoria soon. I think Tessa Blanchard's on that list. So, yeah, Allie, I mean, if you want to be in the running for that, I personally would love to see a matchup between the two of you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either.
One other thing I got to mention here is there's so many great opponents that you had. One I want to mention right here as well. You got to work with Davina Rose, better known to WWE fans as Bailey. Talk about that experience.
It was awesome. It was probably my second match ever. One of the Ballard brothers had brought me up to work with her because they needed another person in this group or a tag or something like that. I forget how it went. So it was such a good opportunity. And this was her actual last match before going to NXT. So the crowd was there to wish her well, and it was just really cool. I was so bad, but she's so great. And I was so nervous too because I have always been just a face. I was trained to be a face, and this was my first time being a heel. And still to this day, I really very rarely become a heel, which I wish people would give me that opportunity more. But it was cool. But she was so sweet, and I do remember hearing, because at the time my ex-boyfriend was at that tryout, and they had mentioned that she will probably get signed because she was able to take a girl who knew nothing and make a good match out of it. So her skill set is so far beyond just basic wrestling, and that's why I knew I was going to be okay, because even if I sucked, she would make it look decent. But what's really cool about her is every time I'm an extra for WWE, I see her, and it's been the two times that she's won the belt, I was there, and we've mentioned that. Like, it's so weird that when you have your moments, I've been there. Like, who am I? I don't know. But your last match, your belts the titles you've won, it's been cool. So, yeah, and she's always so sweet. She always gives me a hug and recognizes, how some people, I mean, I know there are people in the back who act like that they're so above everybody now because they're with WWE, but they forget that you will get let go and you will be on our level again someday. But she is one of those people that probably will be there forever, and she will just do so much good work for them. She's an amazing person. She deserves everything she's getting. So I appreciate working with her, and even just being able to be a part of anything she's doing. She's awesome.
You mentioned something key there. I mean, you want to get the opportunity to be a heel more. I mean, you're a great babyface, or as the term has been coined over the years, the white meat babyface. I think you're great in the babyface role, but personally, like you mentioned there, I'd love to see you do some heel work. Just get in there and just be a heel. I think you would be great at it.
I am great at it. I do it a lot in custom matches, because I don't get the chance to do it at all ever, which is fine because I just get it out of my system when I'm just doing custom matches. But there's in Canada, actually, I'm going to Canada again next month, and they like me as a heel because obviously I'm American stuck up girl. But it's fun to be a heel. It's just I think it's more natural. Everyone wants to I'm nice, but it's also like I get tired of playing the nice girl. I want to be a little bit like, I don't know.
No, I don't blame you. It's because I'll be honest with you. I had this talk with my buddies not too long ago, because everybody knows out here on Long Island that yours truly is the big wrestling fan who appreciates professional wrestling and loves it to death. Been a fan since I was 10. So they asked me if you were ever to want to pursue this and go to a school, what would you rather be, a face or a heel? I'm like, dude, I want to be a heel. I mean, it's so easy just to come across like a jackass. He was like, but you're so nice. I'm like, yeah, I'm nice, but yeah, I want to go in there and be a heel. Just some of the greatest of all time have been heels. I mean, the late great Roddy Piper, one of the best heels of all time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, and it's just so easy to come across as a heel. I mean, The Rock. Look at The Rock. once they let him go out and be himself, yes, came in as Rocky Maivia, and he was all smiles and all this and all that, but they wanted him to, once he got into the Nation Domination, he became The Rock. It just took off for him.
Yeah. Yep. Once they kind of stop telling you how to be, you can let the person develop who they really are. Like, I think that's what the problem is. A lot of promoters, because they have an idea for their show, and I get it. They want a distinct heel and face, and they want this story and that. But I think you should just say, look, you guys do what you want. I would like to see this person win. That's it. And then that would be nice. Like, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as we get there. And I think you're more, like, I'm nice, but I can also cheat and be bad if I have to. Just like anybody in a real fight, you're going to do what you have to do to win. And I think that, like, people controlling that, like, so much, even in acting, man. Acting is hard for me because I don't like when people tell me what to say, because I'm just not good at specific lines. And, like, when you say, hey, I want you to talk about this, can you do that? Yes, I can. As long as you just give me a subject, I can go off and say what I need. That's why sometimes the promos get hard when they control so much of it. And you're like, man, this is and look at The Rock and all the other people. They hit their points that they need to, but everything else is just their own personality.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch upon this as well, Allie, because you think of women's wrestling, you think of this individual. You got to participate in the Luna Vachon Memorial Battle Royal. If you think women's wrestling, you cannot be remiss if you don't mention the late, great Luna Vachon and what she's done for the professional wrestling industry. Talk about taking part in that matchup.
It was a long time ago, so I have a bad memory. I just know it was with Vendetta, who I love. They're so great. I work with them on also Midget Mania shows I was just on this weekend. And then, yeah, I mean, it's one of the first places that actually honored women and, like, women's wrestling and gave us, like, a cool tournament and a slot, So especially on the West Coast, we don't really have a lot. I know the East Coast does more. They have, like, Shimmer and Shine and even, a few others. But on the West Coast, we don't have a lot of stuff. I don't even think we have anything now. Maybe Sabotage, but they moved more central. So, yeah, for us, it's good to have something where women can actually get together and work, because we also don't have very many women. So seeing everybody and doing the shows together are nice.
Now, we're going to jump around here because I want to also talk about Lingerie Fighting Championship and get to your story as well. But one of the people I want to mention who you also did get a chance to work with is, all right, so again, this will go back to NYWC. I saw her not too long ago out here on Long Island. She did the Psycho Circus matchup. You got to get in the ring with Tara Calloway. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, I for a while wrestled Tara Calloway because she was one of the only girls kind of around. So we've had a handful of matches together. And it was so long ago. She wasn't doing the dinosaur or thing. She was just kind of still coming off of the Vegas Vixen thing because she'd moved to California. And yeah, I really don't remember much, to be honest. I have such a bad memory, and it's not anything negative for sure, because Tara was always so great and easy to work with. But it was just, I just don't remember. I remember we worked a handful of places throughout California and Vegas.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I have here. And I got to mention this as well. Please don't feel bad because it's so funny. I'll give you a little funny insight here. Not too long ago, I had Trinity on my show, former WWE and TNA superstar, and I was reminding her of, like, her indie stuff, and she's like, really? That happened? Yeah, it's just years of me in my head. Like, see, please, it's not a problem. It's okay if your memory, it's all right. Really, it's okay. As I'm saying, it happens. It's all right. But yeah, you've done a lot in your career, which again, the most sincerity and respect to you. I'm very happy to have you on in this forum. But let's switch it around here. We'll come back to wrestling. Let's talk about the Lingerie Fighting Championship. Talk about getting involved with that, and you're doing so much great things there as well. So talk about how that came into fruition.
Yeah, so I just had a surgery, and I got contacted by cheerleader Melissa's husband. He was involved in, like, the office there and said, hey, we're looking for girls. And actually, Kelly was the one who told me, like, maybe a year before about it. She said she wouldn't do it because of just some of the things she was attached with, but if I was interested. And to me, I was like, lingerie, I don't know if this is a thing. And I just didn't know about it. So I just never contacted them or got involved. And then once I saw that there were a lot more other pro wrestler girls involved, I was like, well, it should be fine. And so I mean, the first fight I had, I had complications with the surgery. So my surgery, my wound was not healing properly. So we had to bandage it and just leave it like no stitches or anything. It just had to heal on its own. And I remember being very nervous because the fight was coming up within days and it was not healed. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be bad. So I ended up preparing properly and wearing a one piece and having to wear like gauze and stuff underneath just in case I didn't want it to bleed during the fight. And thank God I got her in the first round and we were just kind of in and out within 3 minutes. So I got really lucky there. And then, yeah, but that was an interesting time. And I lost so much weight from having the surgery. I looked good. And now every time I go back, I'm like, sorry guys, I look a lot heavier now, but I just had a surgery. So yeah.
First and foremost, I just want to say you look awesome, by the way. And with that, I know you're very welcome. Now the surgery. I have to mention this. The first time I got introduced to you, I saw you on Vince Russo's podcast, and from that day, I was so touched by your story. Now I know you donated a kidney to your brother. I know you told the story, but do you mind just telling the story? Because again, that is the moment where I saw you, and I just saw this woman, and I was thought, man, what she did for her brother was just so amazing, and I was truly touched by it. And then I don't mean to get emotional about it, but yeah, just from following your work to what you have now is just amazing. So if you would please just talk about the story.
Yes, sure. So my brother grew up with juvenile diabetes, which is not the same thing as it's basically just through your family or your genes. So he got it at 9, and so he had gone through his whole like high school days and everything having diabetes, and it's kind of difficult because I come from a family, my mom is very like rock and roll, cool, like pretty much the life of the party. And so me and my brother both have that same spirit of just being like party people, fun. And so he was going through a lot of his life trying to deal with like dating and all of this stuff and having a good time, but also having to deal with diabetes. So we were in the hospital with him all the time. Like I always respect nurses and anybody who works in the hospital because we've gotten to know a lot of them and hung out there for holidays. And I mean, we spent a lot of time in the hospital. So it was just a part of our life. It's not just his life, it's our life too, because there's so many things where times when he'd wake up and have go into diabetic coma or seizures or just crazy stuff. So my mom and I are we've always taken care of him and watched over, and you know, it's just been not the easiest thing always. And going into this, as with that diabetes, your body starts deteriorating over time. And with either of the diabetes you can get, it's the same concept. So older in your life, you tend to have your feet, sadly, you can get your feet amputated. You lose your eyesight because of nerve damage and other things. So his pancreas didn't produce insulin, so he needed the insulin. And then his kidney. And then his pancreas, I'm backwards. Pancreas, and then he needed a kidney because it deteriorated. Both of them did. So he was on dialysis for a long time, about 5 years. And I remember getting up every morning at like 4 a.m. because he had to be there 4:30 or something. And I would drive him it was 3 days a week. He had to go, and then I'd go back and pick him up 3 hours later, and then he'd sleep all day. And he literally, at that time, it was so ugly, he would just have to sleep all the time because dialysis is so ugly on people, and I feel so bad for people that actually have to be on it. He was dating a girl at the time as well, and they went to Hawaii, and he had to go have or a vacation. I think it was Hawaii or New York. I'm not sure. But he had to go find a dialysis place while they were there, go to dialysis, then try to do things. It's just not fun. So anybody who has to do that, I feel for them. And I'm not even the one doing it. It's just, I see what it does to people's bodies. So the time was really running out for him. And it just took a long time because he was getting on the list, but it was all about money and insurance. And then finally, it was like, finally he's on the list. And then they wanted to put one of us family members first. So they tested me and my mom. I think my mom, actually, they wanted someone more in the age range of him with the kidney because it would last about the same as his lifespan. So as he gets older, he wouldn't need another one till later in life, just like any normal person. So they tested me first, and the way they did this was so strange. They would tell me every single time I'd see them, oh, well, so far it's good, so far it looks good, but probably not. You're probably not going to give it. And they even said that up until right before I actually even went in. When they gave me the anesthesia, they're like, well, we don't know for sure if you're going to give it. We'll see. And I'm just like, what? When are you going to know? Like, they just kept putting it like, we're not sure. It might not work out because whatever. I don't know. It was the strangest thing. But they also gave me the option to discreetly bow out if I didn't want to do it. So I definitely thought about not doing the kidney transplant because I just didn't know like what my life would be like, and I didn't know what to expect, and it just seemed so crazy. I was like, I don't know. Everyone was like, my mom was like, I don't want to lose 2 kids. Think about it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. So with that, I just went with the flow. I just was like, whatever happens. And the way the world brought me to that point, and I did it. And beforehand, I do want to say this because I've been hearing from other girls talking bad about this situation. There's been some negative comments saying that I just did it for publicity, which is insanity. But I do want to say we did purposely announce all of this stuff because my mom and my brother and I talked about it. Because when I was trying to research it, there was nothing on a living donor, and that's what I am, a living donor. And I wanted someone who's coming after me to have something to read. Like, what is it that you go through? What can you do athletics after? Can you do these things? And so we purposely said, well, we're going to talk about this so that, we can get it out there. It's not fair to someone, like no one's writing about it. No, there's nothing out there. So I did interviews and I talked about my situation, and the wrestling community is the one that stepped up, but I also have all my personal family and my things I've done before. I was involved in the church, so it's not just wrestling that was involved in this. The church, the friends and family I have, the businesses that I've been involved with, just the wrestling. People think it's about publicity, of course, and it's definitely not. It's nice to have people recognize that you did something, but to have some of the negative backlash from other girls, I'll say, because I know it's being catty, saying that I just did it for attention. I think that's really nasty. But at the same time, if you think I did something like that for attention, then you go do the same thing and you see how you like it. It's pretty much a big stretch of it's pretty drastic to do to get publicity. I mean, get real. I just have to throw that out there. It's so obnoxious that people are even saying that, but
I absolutely agree. Now, I want to say this to you as well. Now, please, what you just said was facts. So I totally wholeheartedly agree with you. It's so funny. My mom is my biggest supporter when I do these interviews, and I was telling her that I had you on today, and I was telling about your story. Now, my mom, for those that don't know, my mom is also a diabetic. I believe has had juvenile diabetes as well. And she asked me, would you ever give me a kidney? And I said, Mom, in a heartbeat, I would definitely give you a kidney because I'll say this right now. When you get, I forgot what I was doing. I think I was renewing something with my driver's license or something. There was just something in a form. They asked me if I would ever be an organ donor. I said, yeah. And a lot of people are like, God bless you, man. I mean, if you want to be an organ donor. So here's my thing. I'm a very spiritual person. And there's a famous song by the great Norman Greenbaum. It's called Spirit in the Sky. Like, I know where I'm going when I'm going to die. So if I get a chance to save somebody's life, of course I would want to do that. Absolutely.
It's funny you say that about the organ donor thing, because when my mom, these rumors or whatever people are talking about just came out rather recently. So I had this conversation with my mom, and my mom was laughing. She goes, "They don't even realize you were never even an organ donor. You were like the only one in the family who said no, you were not going to donate your organs." And I don't really even know why. I think my stepdad told us not to, and I was just like, okay, I won't. I don't know. I never really thought about it, but she finds it funny that like people say like, well, you're just doing it. Yeah, right. I never even wanted to do it in the first beforehand, so it's so silly. It's just silly, but that's really it's interesting how many people say they would never do it. So I applaud you for doing it. It's not easy for sure. I actually would not suggest people doing it because it's very difficult. But when you want to save somebody, yeah, you do what you got to do. It's just I don't know. It's difficult.
I absolutely understand. Yes, absolutely, it's difficult. But yeah, I think I was just trying to look at it from like a positive perspective. Like, I'm saving somebody's life, and if I die, I lived a good life. Everybody has their time. I think it's just that's the spiritual side of me coming out. So that's how the perspective I was looking at it. So yeah. Now, I have to say this as well. You mentioned something with the wrestling community. Like, oh my goodness, the wrestling community. There's a lot of positivity. There's a lot of negativity, and I think the biggest thing that everybody took off also from, we just had WrestleMania weekend. We had all these different shows. It was a crazy weekend for wrestling. Now, one of the big things that everybody was harping on was Braun Strowman and 10-year-old Nicholas, John Cone's son, winning the Raw Tag Team Championships. We're like, oh, it's dumb. They put a title on a 10-year-old kid. But you also have to look at it from like a business perspective. Like, a 10-year-old kid won the tag titles at a WrestleMania. Do you know how awesome that is for that kid? And yes, he relinquished it a day later on Raw, but do you know how awesome that is for that young man who's sitting in the crowd and just, anybody who even wants to aspire to be a professional wrestler? Like, look at how kind of awesome that is. You know what I'm saying? Look at it in a positive light.
Was that, you said it's John Cone's son?
Yes, it came out that Nicholas, who was the 10-year-old that team with Braun Strowman, was John Cone, who was the referee of the match. That was his son.
Yeah, I love John Cone. He's so great. That's so funny. I didn't even know he has a kid. That's great.
Yes, so that was the whole backlash over it, which yes, I could see people's standpoint, because then again we also did have David Arquette as the WCW champion, but then again that only lasted very quickly as well. But yeah, it's just funny people's mindsets about things.
Yeah, they're just doing different things. I think that people complain about WWE doing the same things all the time, same storylines, but then when they do try to do something different, they give them a hard time about it too. So it's like sometimes I feel like WWE fans just make it so difficult for them to even, get anywhere. Whatever. They have to not do what the fans want so that they'll keep watching to see. Because if you just do everything everyone's telling you to do, all the fans, they're gonna know what's coming next. They're gonna know, So I don't know. I think they, I did like, however, when Jimmy Jacobs was on creative, because you noticed the difference in some of the storylines. They were really good. They had the whole friendship thing, which was very funny. So it's a little disappointing that he's no longer with them, but he definitely, he should be writing for somebody for sure.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Jimmy Jacobs, because he's doing his thing now with Impact Wrestling. I think he's doing some behind-the-scenes stuff. He's managing Congo Kong, who is their new monster now. He's taking the role of what Abyss was. So that's cool to see Jimmy doing the thing there. And it's so funny with Impact, because, we talked about Shimmer, and, you think of Shine, and a lot of women's promotions out there. One of the ones out of Illinois, Rise, who we've seen Medusa and Bull Nakano as a part of there as well. It looks like they have a working relationship now with Impact Wrestling.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, to accentuate the women, and what's really cool about the women is, since this whole Mae Young Classic thing, took off on the WWE Network, and it looks like they're going to be doing a second one to it, it's great to see a lot of these independent promotions incorporating a lot of women's championships. I mean, Warriors of Wrestling does it out here. I'm sure they do it, where you're at or just wherever. But it's great to see, again, the evolution and the evolvement of women's wrestling.
Yes. I would, I'm really excited to see that they're even doing another Mae Young Classic, because that's nice, because there were so many girls that just didn't get the opportunity. I know one of my good friends, and I'm going to say, but she was there, and they last minute took her out and put somebody else in, and it's just like, man, she is so good, and she deserves an opportunity there like crazy. So hopefully this round she will get a really good spot because she's just so underrated, I believe.
Absolutely, and I think one of the people that participated in the original one, I think you've got a chance to work with as well, Miss Santana Garrett, which I was so happy to see Santana in that because Santana is amazing.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of those girls actually. Renee Michelle is in she's in LFC, and we've done customs and stuff together. I've done a lot with Santana. I mean, it's just nice to see. I mean, even Tessa's been around for a little bit too. I mean, most of those girls we've all kind of worked together at some point. There's a handful I don't know, but you know, it's awesome to see the girls that you know moving forward, and it's just great because it's inspiring that we're finally able to move. And it's not just that like just wrestling. You could do other things. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the girls was hired to do commentating, or I mean, sorry, interviews in the back, and just other stuff. There's just other opportunities for women that you don't necessarily have to wrestle, and I think that's what's exciting.
And it's beautiful that you mention that because you talk about people interviewing as well. You got to also give it up to one Jessie K, aka Jessica Carr, first lady ref for the WWE.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. During, like, I'm actually would like to be considered for something like that more than wrestling because my body, I'm a little bit older and my neck is in pain a lot. So for me, the fact they're even having female referees is another opportunity. And you have a longer lifespan. You know, if you're taking one bump here or there, that's not bad, as opposed to bumps every night. You know, so this is again, it's more opportunity for women to do more things, and I would love that to be, you know, an opportunity for myself, really.
I want to get into some a couple more of your opponents here. We talked about Rise, and here's one who's like a mainstay in Rise as well. Now, you got to work with Kikyo, who I believe at the time was Kikyo Nakamura. Now she's doing the Fallen Feather gimmick. Talk about working with Kikyo.
I love Kikyo. Kikyo is amazing. I had a match a handful of years ago. We were just a dark match, and everyone says that was one of the best women's matches in Vegas that we've had. And it was she's just so great. Another person so great to work with. She's a leader in the ring. She's exciting. She could do really cool things, and I think definitely underrated. Like, people don't give her as much credit as she deserves. So I'm so glad to see her starting to get more opportunities and getting out there. It seems like after a long run of hard work, these girls are finally getting what they deserve. You know, Kelly and Kikyo, these are just a couple girls, and even, you know, just it's finally happening after you just have to sit there and do the work for a long time, and then it's like, oh yeah, her, and she's really good, and I guess you have to really go through all of this. There's some girls that get it overnight, but when you put the work in for a long time, I think you start to build respect from people, and they're like, yeah, she's been doing this, and she's been improving, and she's just so great. And you know, and it just takes, I guess, all of that time to get you to that point where people are like, we can't deny it, we got to use this girl, she's awesome.
One other name I'll mention, and then I'll bring it to another topic as well. Again, we're going to bounce around here. Shelly Martinez. I believe you got a fight coming up with her, and I know you've done some work with her as well. Talk about working with Shelly.
Yeah, Shelly's my fave actually. We think alike a lot, and she's taught me a lot just about how people can be in the wrestling business, and you know, she's been around and done the whole thing, so it's nice to talk with her. And we see this business very throughout the same eyes. Like, we see when people are being nasty, we see good hearts, and we try and stick with the same people, you know, so that we don't get caught up in like silly stuff, and just, you know, understand what we're doing. But she's a smart girl because she takes her she's opening other avenues for herself instead of just wrestling, which is really smart. And I like that. I think that we both bounce ideas off each other sometimes, like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, or I like that you're doing this. Like, she has this new morning show, which I think is so cool. Give me 1 second. Sorry, my allergies have me have a dry mouth.
No
so
worries.
Get some water. But she has this morning show, which I think is so great because I think that she's a character and she doesn't get the chance to like show it off as much. She's fun and girly, and I think that she just needs different avenues to show herself to other people. And it's great that she's doing those things.
Absolutely agreed. As I love to see what other aspects she's doing as well, because she's doing amazing work in that front. I've been a fan since the Ariel days and when she was Salinas in Impact Wrestling. I mean, the girl she's another one that's very talented in anything for which that she pursues. And also, I will say this right now, you do not have to apologize for getting some water. I'll be honest with you, I got 2 water bottles right next to me and a Coke Zero, so, oh my God, you want to talk about dry mouth. Oh, so no worries on that front, you're totally fine. So, I want to also touch upon the MMA and the wrestling world, because there's so many people that have like debates about MMA and wrestling. And I'll be honest with you, I'm one of those guys who respects both the MMA and the wrestling world. I mean, I've had Daniel Puder on my show, $1 Million Tough Enough. He's done some MMA work as well. I mean, you look at guys like Ken Shamrock in the transition, you think of Tank Abbott, you think of guys like Dan Severn, Ronda Rousey, who was incredible at WrestleMania, Misha Tate, Heidi Klum, the list goes on and on. So just talk about the MMA world and the wrestling world, because I know a lot of people debate about that, but I gotta say, both fields are doing great at what they do.
Well, I think that pro wrestling is kind of evolving a little bit into like MMA, because they have such a partnership. Like, they're so close with Dana White, Triple H, and Stephanie. So I think that it's kind of going that direction. You see a lot of the finishers are submission holds, and I mean, so if you're not interested in MMA, but then again you have like Ricochet, who's all crazy all over the place. So they bring a sprinkle of everything, and MMA and UFC itself is so big that they'd be foolish not to partner with them and bring in people. The only thing I've noticed in locally, some of the MMA people that cross over, like on the indies, they're not as charismatic, so sometimes it's not the best, because real fighters have that anger, have this like deep down something that's making them fight. Normal people don't usually fight, I feel. And you find like boxers and these people who come from nothing, and that's what they're fighting for, to have something. So when you have those people, they don't always, some of them can be very quiet and deadly, which is scary, or you can have those real outspoken people like what's his name, McGregor, who you really want on. I would love to see him in WWE. That would be insanity. But then he's also a wild card. Like, can he handle that? Ronda Rousey is good, but she struggles with her promos because that's not natural for them necessarily. They come from another world of real fighting and real passion. So once they tap into like the sort of acting side of wrestling, it's going to be good. But there are some that still don't really bring that. Like Brock Lesnar has Paul Heyman for a reason. He's the talker, and he does an amazing job. But I love Brock Lesnar as a whole. I actually tend to favor more of the UFC like fighter guys and girls over the acrobatic, I guess I could say. But that's just because I'm involved in it. I really like some of my favorites are Becky Lynch, and I know she's just kind of involved in MMA a little bit, or jiu-jitsu, I think. I'm not sure, but I know her boyfriend is. But there's just like that, to me, is more appealing. But everyone has their own parts of WWE that they like, and I think that that's my favorite. Like, I didn't even watch WrestleMania, and I know that's so bad to say, but I've been so busy. So I want to see how Ronda did. I heard she did amazing. I heard one of our little our midget friends was on doing a spot with the New Day guys. Mm-hmm. And so there's a bunch of things I want to see because all my friends and cool people are on. So So I need to get on there and watch, but I just haven't had a chance to.
I also
But I
yeah.
love I love the MMA crossover stuff. To me, that's like what I'm excited about. I'm excited to see that, and I'm excited to see some of the people I know move forward and do things. But it's good that they're retraining some of them though, because it can be dangerous. You're dealing with people who never have done MMA against people that's all they've done is jiu-jitsu or boxing, and if they accidentally hurt you, you're done, man. Ronda Rousey, I don't want to play games with her, you know?
Absolutely, and I'll say this right now. You mentioned the New Day spot. It's pretty funny. I think you will enjoy it. And Ronda, definitely check out. She was amazing. She took it seriously. She was in great shape, and she put on a hell of a performance. And as far as the Brock Lesnar thing, I will say this. I like Brock Lesnar. I've been a fan since 2002. I was there when he beat The Rock for the Undisputed Championship at SummerSlam. I've always incorporated. I love how he incorporated the NCAA and amateur wrestling into it. Then when he went to UFC and his amazing transition. Do a lot of people get tired of his moveset? Yes, from people who I've spoken to. But I think it's cool how he pretty much weakens the equilibrium. The suplex city, he locks in the Kimura, which great submission wrestling. You see Undertaker uses that, a lot of influence in MMA in his work, the triangle
Mm-hmm.
choke, the go-go plata. I mean, yeah, it's great to see that, transition with MMA and wrestling. And also, you got to be remiss if you don't mention Shayna Baszler is doing her thing, the new NXT Women's Champion. So, yeah, it's just a great crossover all in all.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. And again, there's people who say, "Well, I don't like MMA," but they love WWE. But you kind of have to just get used to seeing that around, because it's going to be, if not, it's going to just be more and more of it, And then you're going to have like the other side of it is going to be like the Ricochet guys, where they're flipping and going crazy. And maybe some more powerhouse guys. It's just going to be an interesting mix of people now, because you have all these different styles that are coming around.
Absolutely, and that's what's great about professional wrestling. You have your submissions, your high flyers, you have all different elements that are incorporated. I'll tell you this about MMA. It's so funny because I remember when Kurt Angle wanted to get into mixed martial arts, and he was doing that whole thing the mid 2000s, and it was so funny because I remember Chuck Liddell was on a radio show and Kurt Angle called in and he wanted to fight Chuck Liddell in an MMA fight, and I'm like, okay, Kurt. I respect you trying to go into different fields, but I'm like, it's Chuck Liddell. I'm like, it's Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, calm down.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, Kurt. I get it, man. An Olympic gold medalist, broken freaking neck. I understand you want to try stuff, but it's like, dang, man, it's Chuck Liddell.
That's like Ryback wanting to go hop in and be like, "I'll toss you guys around." Like, you should train first, I think. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Size isn't always the winner.
Exactly, and I gotta ask you. It's been officially announced. We're gonna see it in June. CM Punk's getting back in the octagon against Mike Jackson. What do you think about Punk getting involved in there?
I like CM Punk. I think that he, I mean, he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and obviously that's who he is. He does what he wants. But he's been training with this group, Rufus Sport, which is the same kind of company that works with who we train with out here. So we're kind of buddies. I don't know him, but all of our people are kind of on the same page, and I see updates from him often. But I think that it's cool that just, these wrestling people really dug into him. And even to the point where they did something like a comment on WWE. I think Stephanie did. But he's going back in, whether people like it or not, and I think that shows a lot about who he is. He doesn't care if, and I think he's training harder, and he knows what it is now, but he's not quitting, and he's not backing down, and he's doing his thing, and I think anybody that's doing that should be applauded. And I mean, you're always going to have, especially crazy wrestling, people that hate everything you do or talk negative and, whatever. But even if he wins or loses, I think that he deserves applause because he's putting work in and doing what he wants. And I think that's amazing. I think that you can't really be nasty to somebody when they're trying to do what they want. And, it's just people are, I would like to see a lot of those people get out and make an impact in WWE and then go do a whole nother sport and try to be like do something with that, because martial arts alone is hard. You people learn this stuff from when they're kids, and to just jump in within a couple of years, it's not very easy. I mean, it takes a long time to learn this craft, and then to go up against somebody who's doing it for a long time, as their kids, good luck.
Exactly. I only have a couple final topics, and I'll say this to you right now: the invite is open and sent to you. If you ever want to come back on for another interview and another show, I'd be happy to have you.
Oh, thanks.
You're very welcome. Let's talk about this customs. I mean, you do Las Vegas custom shooting. There's a lot of great photo shoots that you've done. Talk about that experience. I wanted to touch upon that as well.
Yeah, so custom wrestling can get a bad rap, I know. So I like to always clear the air with that. Custom wrestling is basically you're the promoter. A lot of times promoters can't afford to fly certain girls in, or they just don't want to see a certain match, but you do. So what I like to do, I have a company called Las Vegas Custom Wrestling. I usually fly to an area, or sometimes we do it in Vegas, wherever. And then I will book a bunch of girls. We'll run a shoot, which means you can order some of the girls you've been wanting to see wrestle together. We have some of the most popular girls on the indie scene, depending on where I go or who's around. And there's just not always an opportunity to see that and, get a ticket. And a lot of the live shows don't have feeds where you can actually see the match or whatever, so you never actually get to see it. So you get to choose how the match goes. Some people take their advantage of that and try to make it more silly or whatever. It's however you like it. There are limits. We don't do a lot of real wild stuff. We keep it pretty pro wrestling for the most part. We do a couple Attitude Era type matches if you want that, but this is pro girls that don't, sometimes they have limits, so we want to make sure that everyone sticks with that and is comfortable. But yeah, it's really fun. And my style, I prefer like the old school look. I like a one piece with tights and tube socks, so I prefer that, and I base my company off of that old school glow girl look. And so when a customer doesn't choose an outfit, we default to that, and I like that personally. I think it's cute. So we do a lot of stuff. I just I just opened up a new avenue with my custom company called In the Cage Customs. We're doing basically customized cage matches, so you can pick who you want to go against, who wins, and the outfits are basically the same. It's a sports bra and spandex shorts, so just like an MMA fight. You're not going to really, you can have the option to choose a different outfit, but we're trying to lean more towards a professional look for MMA fights in this category. But yeah, I really like doing this because we get to see what people want to see, and that helps in my real life matches as well, because the moves that people are interested in seeing come up a lot. Instead of wasting time on other things, we kind of give the live audience what they want to see based on what we're getting requests from. It's a lot more fan interaction here, doing it this way. So, and then you get to work on like different things you're working on, different holds or moves, and working with so many different girls. I've worked with some of the best female wrestlers that I've never would have had a chance to work with any other place, like Chelsea Green, Santana Garrett, Kelly Klein, Raylyn. I love her. She's so great. Thunder Rosa. I mean, I could keep going. Delilah Doom, like Kikyo. I've wrestled so many girls that I've never even wrestled live, and I probably never will, but it's been amazing. We've wrestled plenty of times, and it's awesome. It's really fun to learn from them and work with them, and it's a good time.
I gotta ask you, if you were to give an advice to any guy or gal that wants to pursue a career, whether it be in, MMA, wrestling, or what have you, any advice for anybody who wants to get involved in whatever their future endeavors may be?
I would say be involved in fitness beforehand and have a good diet beforehand, because trying to manage all of that in the beginning, like that's what I was lucky. I mean, the training itself is so different from just regular workouts. It's hard already. So if you're not athletic or involved in the gym, or eating properly before you get into wrestling, it's just going to be an uphill battle. And people often get defeated already. So it's better to just train your body to be ready for that. You can't really, because the cardio itself is just difficult, but getting on a good eating pattern and everything before, and I'm talking like a lifestyle, not just a diet, because that's what's going to keep you strong and keep you going. And then for women, because a lot of women quit early because of the bumping and the bruises, just work through that, because the bumping and the bruises goes away eventually, and you have to see the bigger picture. Once you've learned this craft, now you can do all these other things. So I would just say stick with it and make sure your diet and fitness is on point before getting in.
All right. Now, Allie, before we do close out, please promote the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, any upcoming events. The floor is yours. Go right ahead.
Okay, I try to keep this really simple. My Facebook and my YouTube are all / Allie Parker Wrestling. And my Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat are all the same. It's TheeAllie Parker, Parker. So that's the Allie Parker, not the Allie Parker, the. So it's Thee. A lot of people mix that up. But those are my two basic handles. I think you can find most things through that. And yeah. And then my website, I have allieparkerwrestling.com or lasvegascustomwrestling.com. And yeah.
Okay.
I usually answer my emails before anything. I know a lot of people message me on different areas, but I never check. Mostly just my email. So, bookings or any kind of contact you need is best through email.
Okay. And any upcoming events, Allie? Please go ahead and promote that as well.
Oh man, let me see. I have Midget Mania coming up in LA, and if you're in LA, you can look for that. I'm going to Canada with All Star Wrestling in end of May, and I don't know. And then we have a couple more shows throughout the year, which I'm not positive exactly when, but it's lingerie fighting. Live shows in June, August, and I think December. So when more details come, I will be posting about that.
Okay. So, Allie, any final words to the fans?
No, I just appreciate people listening to this and you taking the time to know about me and my things. That's so nice of you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, and I'll tell you this right now. Again, utmost respect and sincerity, and my sentiments to you. You're a true pro, and you're a lovely human being. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And this will conclude another interview. Peace out, guys.